9:01, and we're going to let people log in as I'm introducing the class. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Lizy Hoeffer, and I have been a residential loan officer in the Valley now since 2008. And I started at the peak of the original recession, right? And so I've learned a lot in my time as being a loan officer on how to generate leads, how to convert leads, and how to maximize what you get. And so we're going to go over all of that in today's class. If there's something specific that you came here for at the end of our presentation, we'll take a moment and do Q&A. But it's super important that you stay engaged, that you ask questions, because the better participant you are, the more you're going to get out of today. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with you guys. Okay. And so the class that we're doing today is called Maximizing Leads and Conversion. Okay. Can you guys all see my screen? Yes. Can I get a head nod?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. So very first thing, guys, before we get started on anything, I want to talk to you guys about the importance of actually tracking your leads. So most of the time when I meet with real estate agents, I often hear, that they get a lead, they save it in their phone, and they pass it on to their loan officer. And that's basically the extent of the tracking. It's super important that you guys have tools for where to put all of your leads. You don't have to have a super fancy CRM system, but I do think that it's important for you guys to have at least an Excel spreadsheet that has all of your leads, right? So every single one of them. All right. So, and you have to disposition them in a way that also dictates how you'll be following up with them throughout the rest of the year. So number one, get a place to put all of your leads, preferably a CRM system that has automation. Worst case scenario, Excel spreadsheet, and then use things like Boomerang on Gmail to help you with automated emails throughout your time. So write those two things down because they're not in this booklet. Okay. First thing about dispositioning leads is understanding how qualified and how ready to perform the lead is, right? So I quantify leads in terms of hot, warm, and cold. So a lead that is hot is anybody that is interested in buying a home in 90 days or less. Okay, warm is about 6 months or less, cold is 12 months. Now, I know it may take a client 6 months to purchase, but if their desires are to purchase right away, those are going to be how I quantify them versus like what actually happens. So this is super important because hot, obviously we want to have higher contact, warm, we want to have second highest contact, and cold doesn't mean that we don't want to have contact with them. It just means that we have to have a long-term game plan. So cold leads would be like people that, haven't relocated, are just inquiring, maybe on a 12-month credit plan, don't have a job, don't have down payments, have long-term reasons for why they cannot qualify. Okay, so you need a long-term drip. Then you'll have a secondary stage, right? Again, this also dictates how often you're going to call them, right? So first stage for real estate agents is going to be, obviously lead not contacted. Okay. And then you have lead contacted. And then after that, you'll want to do things like pre-qualified, pre-approved. Are they on a credit plan? Are they on hold? Are they contingent on selling? Is there something that they're waiting for in terms of seasoning, like bad, like a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, down payment funds, right? A job, right? Anything that's going to prevent them. These stages right here are the ones that require different types of follow-up. So every single one of them will require a different follow-up process from you, right? And then when it comes to lead contacted and lead not contacted, I want for you guys to have a system for how many times you're going to touch a lead. So the average for people to touch a lead that they get is twice. So they will call a lead 2 times. If the lead doesn't answer both of those times, very few people have a system that is ongoing past that. People who are really good at follow-up, they've done some data on this, show that people, when they don't answer in the first 2 times, are more likely to answer actually after time 8. Okay, so after 8 attempts to contact. And there is a really important figure in past 6 times, right, even if they answer with you, the percentage of whether or not they follow through is actually like goes down by half, right? So you just want to pay attention that you have a long enough follow-up process, right? But the expectation past 6 attempts, just know that it's a long-term follow-up process, but you're probably not going to see a high end result on that. So my lead process, just so you guys know, when I get a lead, we call them twice immediately. So we do a double dial. Then we send a text message if they don't answer. We call at the end of the day. Then the next day they get an email from us. The next day they get 2 calls and another text. The next day they get another email. We go through this sequence so that it has 16 touches before we mark something unresponsive. Okay. And then once they're unresponsive, we still follow up with them via our email campaign, our YouTube videos, and then we follow up with them once a month until they ask to be unsubscribed. Okay. Now, super important, because believe it or not, I've actually generated leads on a long-term drip campaign like 2 to 3 years later. So it is still super important that you have plans for all of this. But one, you have to figure out within your current work calendar, how many times can you actually call this person, and do you have systems for automation to help you achieve the number of times that you need? Or do you need to lower it to like, I can follow up for a week, and then after a week, I'm going to, call the referral partner, ask them to re-engage the client, which is also part of our plan, right? So you do need a plan for following up on new leads, what you do with leads that have not been responsive, and then categories for all the leads that have responded. And the only reason I included these categories in here versus the other ones are because these are the ones that actually make us money, right? These are the leads that if we follow up on all the time, will actually convert. So you also need to understand, for those of you who run teams, who is responsible for what lead, at what stage in the game, right? And what part of the process. So like, remember that that's super important. This is an example of our lead thing. I took out some of the pertinent information, but like basically it talks about what type of lead type it is. So like lead type for real estate agent, just so you know. So I deal in a lot in database marketing, which you can too. So it's important that you know where your leads come from, but it's also important to understand if it's a purchase or a sale, right? Because they have different timelines. And then you'll see the primary stage, the secondary stage, the referral partner. I'll have the contact information, the notes, and the last contact date. Okay, so super important that you have this. I look at my lead reports every single day. So tracking super important, reviewing is super important. Okay, if you guys do not have a way to track your leads, I can send this to you. This is a business tracker. For me, I keep these weekly, and I just like write down like where my lead source was, what the scenario is, what the activity was that generated the lead, because I want to know about those things in my prospecting. And then I keep these, and then once a week I disposition my leads, but I'm really trying to make sure that I'm following up on everything, and I deal best when I have like a to-do list in front of me. I can send you these if you want, if you put your email address in the chat box, okay? So I can send you what this looks like, but this is an example of a lead tracker. Now, remember when I said that one part of it is putting all of your leads in a place where you can access them. The second is figuring out, are you converting? Are your marketing efforts working? Are your prospecting efforts working? Are your teammates performing? I run a large team, so obviously my reports are still very extensive. So this is actually a report that I look at every single day. I look at how many uncontacted leads. I look at how many unresponsive, how many on holds, how many pre-quals we got, how many files went into escalation, meaning that they need further review before we can disposition them. And then I track everyone's conversions. And so like for me, like it is super important that everyone stays above 42%. And if they are above 42%, I know that my team is doing the right amount of activities. Okay. If you really want to maximize your conversion, you have to create a report. And it doesn't have to be as extensive as this one, but you have to create a report so that you can see how you're performing and how your team is performing. Okay, so the first one has to do with leads. Okay, and you'll notice that I have like all of the dispositions, the totals, the conversions, and then I have like revival of old leads, the number of dials on the team, the month to date conversion, because I'm trying to compare it, because this number goes up as the month progresses because more follow-up happens. Okay. Can you look at the chat? Okay. And then the next one is a pre-approval performance. So like for you guys, you will have stages like lead, and then you have like showing, right? For those of you who have showing agents, this is going to be a category that you need to quantify, like how many properties are they being shown? What's the feedback on them? How many offers are being written? Okay, same thing with listing. It's like, how many listing appointments did you go on? How many, how many contracts did you sign? How many, buyer brokers, things of that nature. But you'll want something to track once a lead has moved past, your lender, what happens to it next, right? Do we have any questions?
I'm waiting for her to let me in.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to check the chat really quick. So it looks like we just have, okay. We just have emails for people who want the lead tracker. Okay, awesome. Okay, so then this is where it gets really important, guys. So this is actually our current, can you mute yourself? Okay. Okay, current business results and metrics. Okay. All right. So what's super important, and this is something that I recommend that you do on a quarterly basis, is I recommend that you go through all of your database and you go through all of your leads, and we start quantifying what the actual results look like and areas of improvement. So I actually do this every single quarter, and then once a year I go through every quarter and really just try to dig deep on what we can improve on. So again, things super important, knowing the number of people in your database. So as a real estate agent, the longer you're in business, the higher percentage of your deals that are actually done by people that you know, past clients. I read some NAR statistic once that said that it was like 40% came from past clients and 20% additional came from friends and family. So again, we're talking about 60% of all of the deals you'll be doing are from people that you're communicating with on a regular basis, okay? So again, number of people in your database, number of people that are referring you actual leads, units closed. This stuff is super explanatory, but again, very important that you review. And then what I always like to do is look up trends, right? Where am I having traction? So you'll notice when you gather all of this information, and I can send you a simple business spreadsheet that'll total all of this, but you'll notice that there's typically like 3 pillars of business, okay? The one that has the majority of all the leads and closing is your primary source of business. That's the one you have to pay the most attention to. That's the one that you have to concentrate on having the most prospecting hours in, right? Those are the leads that you cultivate and follow up with the most, okay? So super important there. But you'll want to make sure that you track the number of leads for that, the number of closings, the number of contracts received. Important things here are understanding your conversion rate for the lead and the pull through rate for closings. Okay, so very important there. You'll also have a secondary source, again, just the number 2 source, right? You'll fill out the same information. And then anything that is supplementary, right? So anything that was just like 1 or 2 closed deals, we don't really typically pay any attention to, not because they don't matter, but because in terms of time and effort, you only have so much of that. We don't focus on anomalies or like, lucky sales. Okay, so we're really concentrating primary and secondary. And then in order to hit your goals, right, what has to change, right? So this is for the year, but you can also just do it based on the quarter, based on how many weeks are left. And the last half here changes to your previous year's efforts or in Q2 business focus, right? This stuff, you're going to fill this out at the end once we've gone through the rest of the packet, okay? But it's super important that you gather all of this information, because this will allow you to look from like a bird's eye on what changes have to be done for your business and where you're actually seeing success. All right, so things about a database that I wanted to explain. So these are all terms that, I've created, and then also terms that I've adapted from other coaching programs. And then also just learned in like business classes, right? How to disposition current clients. So you want to know that there are going to be accounts that are going to account for large amounts of deals. People call them channel accounts. I call them waterfall accounts. There are accounts like, let's say, a relocation company that's going to do, 4 to 10 deals a year with you. It's an HR department might be one, a divorce attorney might be one, but somebody that's going to give you at least one closed deal a month, right? Or at least one good referral a month. Okay. Then you have a raving fan. So somebody who's very important to your network. You want to quantify them by 1 to close 2 deals a quarter. And know that they're going to be an avid referral partner. And then a promoter is somebody that you can quantify like 3 closed deals a year with, so again, somebody who's just, an active supporter of your business, but maybe isn't shoving business cards down people's throats. And then you have perspective. So these are always, you want to be adding to your database all the time, primarily because, people move away, people retire. Unfortunately, people pass away. I mean, your database literally has to be growing all the time because it's at the same time it's changing and also getting smaller. So you have to actively bring people to your database. And those are going to be people that I recommend that and like, right? That you want to get to know better. But just know that I always keep prospective people in my database, probably 90 days, but no longer than a year. Okay. And then you'll have business network of people for real estate agents, right? You're going to want to get to know anybody that deals with people that are moving and selling. And so again, divorce attorneys are really good, recruiters really good, HR departments great, relocation companies good, estate planning attorneys good. There's a variety of different businesses, right? But really important that you connect yourself with at least 50 of them, right? Have at least 50. And then you'll want to concentrate on influencers, right? So impactful people within communities. We're talking pastors, PTA presidents, head of the, of the book club that you're wanting to go to, but people who actually have an influence and have a sphere that they consistently network with. And then you'll want to create a pipeline, right, of clients that you're actively working, right? Because these people are also really great referral sources. People are always afraid to ask referrals during the process, but that's when people are actually the most enthusiastic about the process. They're talking to more people about their experience. They're more willing to be a referral partner at this time than after they close, when their mindset has moved on to something else like decorating or landscape or home improvement, right? So you really want to consider your active database full of clients to be the most important section of your actual working database to ask for future business from. And then you'll want to figure out ways for contacting, like phone calls, scheduled visits. I call this a milk route, in times of COVID. I mean, it's primarily phone and Zoom right now, but figuring out ways that you're going to provide intentional value and schedule visits to, super important. If any of you guys, so after this, I'll probably end up sending you guys a couple of things too, like a greatness tracker so that you can track activities, super helpful. But knowing what that is and figuring out how it'll work in your current workload. I coached a bunch of different real estate agents, and the maximum that I have ever seen anyone do is like 40 to 50 prospecting activities per week that dealt with database. So that'll be anywhere between 2 to 4 hours if you're looking to figure out how to quantify that within your calendar. And then always want to qualify your lead source, always want to pay attention to activities that you did that generated your leads, and always want to keep track of your referral partners, because it's super important to reward people that help your business in a variety of different ways. And I'm not talking about like commission, but remembering their birthdays, paying attention to their life events, making them feel special and important is a really great way to move anyone up to be a VIP. All right, any questions on the database stuff before I move on? Okay, all right. So here's how I actually look at my my referral partners on a regular basis, and I actually do this once a quarter. So I fill out what's called an account pyramid. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to move these people up. So for me, if I have 20 big accounts, that makes up 80% of my business. So if I just pay attention to growing that, I really don't have to do much. But like, it's 20, but it's hard to get a big account, right? The goal is to get 20, but you might end up with 1, 2, but the goal is to get 20. And then 25 raving fans. And then promoters are really great, but I mean, you'll have them. I put 50 in them. And then I put prospective people again. Those are those business people, the influential people that you know and like, that you want to move up into the pyramid, okay? So you guys will get a copy of that and fill that in. A database, guys, should be around 300 people to really, really be successful. And it shouldn't include people that you do not know, do not like, and don't really have a relationship with. So just pay attention to that, be super mindful, because where you spend your time and energy in is going to be the thing that results in the highest quality leads. All right. So now that we've talked about tracking leads and we have talked about how to organize, sort, and qualify your database, I want to go into what's really going to be the game changer in your business. And it's like your actual business tracker, right? So what happens to most people is that we are awarded on our lagging measures for how much we've closed, and we're awarded for things like GCI. But in all fairness, those things are things that have happened. And also they don't talk about how profitable you are and what your business looks like moving forward. So while I don't want to take away from anyone's celebrations, I think what's so important is to always concentrate on leading indicators. So like for me, I pay attention to the number of leads I get, my conversion, how many pre-approvals, how many contracts and refinances I get every week. And those are the numbers I care about. Like the closings will happen if I have the right amount of prospecting, if I have the right amount of leads. And so I 100% pay attention to activities and the leading metrics. So I put in here just so you guys can see what things to pay attention to as a business person, right? So again, units closed, volume closed, business revenue, and personal income, super important. Understanding the expenses, how much money you saved, how much money you've given, very important. And then comparing it to your Q1 market performance, like what it did look like, okay? Did you hit all of your metric goals, right? And then if you are on track or aren't on track, right, you should know what the benchmark would be. So when you hit those goals, right, for the past market performance, how many leads did you have in Q1? How many closings did you have in Q1? Right? What did the business revenue look like? And if you have decided, so every year your business should grow 20 to 30%. I know a lot of people want to grow 50 to 100%, but a sustainable long-term business can't have that kind of growth year after year, because at some point in time, we're maxed out in capacity, right? I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's not always the healthiest decision. And it's easy to double your business when you start at 2 deals and you start at 6 deals and you start, but once you're at 100 deals, it's not as easy to go to 200 deals. And then when you have 400 deals, it's hard to go to 800 immediately, right? So you just have to realize that like you're expecting 20 to 30% growth unless you're newer in the business. Okay. So you want to compare where you were for the previous performance at this same time, and are you having 20 to 30% growth in Q1? Okay, so where should you be, right? Did you hit the benchmark, yes or no? Because if you did not hit it, right, we have to make some changes to the actual business itself. So things that you have to look at, okay? So your leads for your primary source of business. Okay, how many did you get? How many did you get for the secondary? How many did you get for the supplemental? Okay, again, current results, where were you last year? Where are you this year? Are you on track? Yes or no? Same thing for closings. You're going to want to do the same thing for, what was your goal? Where were you last year? Where are you currently? Did you hit your benchmark? Okay. And then you need to ask yourself, right, which activities generated the most leads, right? So I found that my in-person appointments, classes, anything that I do, like parties, happy hours, networking, that's actually where I received the highest conversion. So when I did my prospecting, I actually minimized the amount of phone calls and made sure that I was having at least 60 face-to-faces per week. It was important to me, and because it was my number one activity to generate actual closed leads, right? So my calendar has to be set on face-to-face appointments. If yours is based on the phone, you need to be setting it up so you have 10 phone calls a day. If yours is based in marketing, you need to figure out how that marketing is going to fit into your calendar. Okay. Did your performance meet your goals though, right? Because sometimes we can execute 60 face-to-faces and it didn't achieve the leads that we wanted it to achieve or the closings. It's still our highest. So we have to then look at the quality of the face-to-faces, the quality of the value that you're bringing to the table, right? If you provide value, the leads will come. Okay. And if they aren't coming, then we got to just change the value, not change the prospecting, if that makes sense. You'll do it again for the second most leads generated, again, activities, marketing, etc. And then here I do want you to list out the supplemental businesses in case, right, they came as a result of something that you were actually doing, right? And I always want to look at, because sometimes like supplemental business, like let's say you had a party and then you got 6 referrals, but let's say you only had 1 party. Right. What's important about that is maybe we test out having 2 parties and see if you have the same results, right? Because sometimes the activity only happened once, but it generated a lot of activity. So it's worth looking at. But that's not the same to say as you got a random sign call, right? And then saying, oh, now all signs are going to yield a closed deal, right? So you just have to know the difference between, something that was an anomaly and something that you didn't actually give enough activities to verify the performance. Okay, so, and I always ask myself to be really mindful of my performance. And since this is just going to you, like try to be as honest as possible. Like there's times where I've met a lot of my metric goals, but I wasn't happy about the execution. And so I always write things that I'd like to change and aha moments that I have. If you don't spend time actually feeling, excitement or feeling the disappointment, I promise you the results won't last, because you won't have any incentive to repeat the activity, or you won't have any incentive or let's say discomfort to not, right? So super important to really pay attention to all the data and ask yourself how you feel about it. And what I always think to drag that out of me, I always ask myself on a scale of 1 to 10. If you ever survey people, giving them a 1 to 10, I actually do 1 to 5, right? When I'm doing it to clients, giving them a range actually creates more honesty in feedback. All right. Okay. So from all of the data, right, you're going to figure out, right, and once you've been mindful, where you feel like you actually provide the most value. Like what areas of genius do you provide? This is super important because a lot of times your clients are going to want you to differentiate yourself between other real estate agents. And if you can't tell them that you are the #1 real estate agent that deals in condos in South Scottsdale for $300,000, right? Like in comparison to the other one, right? Most people talk about themselves in terms of things that people would never, like, oh, I'm really honest, I have great communication, I have good integrity, but if you can't quantify what that zone of genius is in terms of time, money, and stress, it really goes nowhere. So looking at the data, you'll figure out who you help the most. Like for me, I know that we do the best job with first-time home buyers. Like it's the #1 type of client that we help. Our pull through is really high, our communication is really good, but I can say that we've probably helped more first-time home buyers than any other loan officer in the Valley, right? It is so important to know that, right, when clients are coming to you. Now, at the same token, you also have to realize where your business is weak. Some of you, it might be in tools and resources, like you're not organized, you haven't tracked your leads, you don't know where your activities are coming from. That is a real weakness in your business. Be honest about it and then figure out, right, tools and resources that you can have, because we're going to put them in changes, right? So we're going to put them in changes, right? So business focuses that will either enhance your zone of genius or correct an issue with the business, right? Those are the changes that need to be met. Now, this last box here, I like things that rhyme, so I wanted something with an H because zitch is a fun thing to say. But like, honestly, we don't really want haters either, but it's important also to look at people in the community that are doing things well or doing things that you want to do, and figuring out, okay, what is the competition doing? Okay, what would the competition say about your business? Okay, so really important things that you look at here, because this is what's going to show you what opportunities you have in your business, or right, areas that you can win. So I know that if somebody compares their business to me, and let's say that they are a loan officer, maybe doing 5 deals a month, what they are able to say about my business is that they can be a one-on-one person contact for a real estate agent. So somebody who wants to deal with just one person will love the loan officer who does 5 deals. Okay. Now they cannot claim to have a system and a team and, people that work as many hours as my team does, right? Or be able to see that they see as many deals. But if you're looking at ways to be competitive, finding the opposite thing to market is super huge, right? So just figuring out what the competition does best and how can you be the opposite of that in the best category. So you'll fill out your zitch. That's actually my favorite part of this entire workbook is actually figuring out like the strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities of your business. Now, I had to make a lot of adaptations in my business due to COVID. And a lot of them had to do with, like I said, my number one prospecting activity was face-to-face meetings. And unfortunately, like I've taken everything to Zoom because that's important. I still have to teach my classes. I still have to get out there. I'm still working on that because I actually derive a lot of energy from seeing everyone in the class or like getting, feedback. So I've adapted, but it will not be permanent. Like this is not going to be a permanent change to my business, but you have to know that if door knocking was your thing, open houses was your thing, that in this environment and probably till the end of the year, maybe longer, we have to make adaptations for this environment. So I want you to look at changes that you need to make, right? To again, still get the number of prospecting activities that are necessary to convert deals. Okay. So prospecting activities, like, is there anything that you can automate? Again, anything that you can take digital or virtual, right? If you can adapt in person, like how can you do this social distancing, which probably means that you have to have more mini events or offer an event and then also offer it on Zoom. Okay. You have to pick up your marketing activities pretty extensively in this marketplace, right? So more social media, more email newsletters, more videos, right? Lives, super important, but you have to figure out how you're going to be able to do that. And then what skills and training are you going to need to implement and improve and develop your prospecting in this COVID area, okay? So a lot of the things that work for us, people aren't super comfortable with right now, especially in real estate, because a lot of us did cold calling, a lot of us did open houses and door knocking and stuff like that. And I just feel like now we have spam filters on our phones and people aren't comfortable just getting a random door knock from a stranger that could give them a deadly virus, So it is just something that you have to pay attention to. If you guys and to be fully candid, I actually have had COVID for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't posted anything in 2 weeks. But if you go on to my social media and look prior to the previous 2 weeks, you will see what I have been personally doing. So I've been having a live show on YouTube. I put out a weekly video. I do weekly bulletins on what's going on new with mortgages, interest rates, ask people to get people to ask me questions that I then answer through my stories, right? So again, all of these things are really helpful when it comes to increasing your engagement without having to increase your face-to-faces. So once you have done all of this, I am going to ask you to pick 3 big projects, one in prospecting, one in marketing, and one in refining your skills, right, to improve for the next quarter, right? And so these are going to be your projects and changes. So this is going to be the part that you fill out in that one first page that I showed you. Again, I need you guys to quantify what your expectations are for the results, what potential challenges you're going to have, what resources are needed, and again, focus on reporting and reflection. I promise you, like, that's the first thing that does not get implemented is the reporting and reflection time. And it's literally the only thing possible. Consider your guys the driver of your bus or the captain of your ship. If the driver or the captain aren't paying attention to where they're going, they will crash and or, run into an iceberg. Super important that you pay attention to this and that is not a thing that you let go. Like, I promise you, do not let it go. All right, so you'll have 3 big projects to handle. And then this whole thing, guys, probably takes about, I would say it takes about 2 weeks to complete from start to finish. I know that sounds like a lot of time, but unless you have hours to dedicate to the actual project itself, it takes me about 2 weeks every time. I pull reports from my CRM. I review all of my prospecting activities. I look at everything. And I will say that I have continuously had my best year ever, year over year, despite like moving companies, despite having to work in completely remote, despite having to do all of the crazy things that have happened. So just to kind of give you some perspective on this. So I started my business in 2008. Then I had a pretty good business. I closed about 13 to 16 deals a month, which as a loan officer is actually considered a top producer. Most of us close about 2 deals a month. And then I got fired from my job and had to restart over. But because I had kept such good records, I was able to. I closed 238 deals my first year, 412 deals my next year, 529 the following year, 634 that next year. Then we closed over 800, then 981. Last year we closed a little over 1,300 deals. Like, that is the power of compounding activity, review, reporting, and intentionality in your business, right? So I know it's a lot of work, but when we're talking about maximizing conversion, when we're talking about really making a change that will provide you with the optimal results, this is where it's at, okay? So can you guys do me a favor? I know that there's 17 of you on the call. Can you guys all turn on your video? Because I want this next part of this, honestly, I want you guys to ask questions. I just went over a very large packet of information just to kind of give you a general idea on how to develop and review. But essentially, I want to be able to answer your questions about your current issues with prospecting in this moment. Okay. So I am just going to kind of pick on some of you and then just ask you to ask me questions because it's so important. I really want you guys to get something out of today. Okay.
That's why he's got fallen off her.
Sarah, can I pick on you first, girl?
Sure. Yeah. What's up?
So what are your current struggles right now with conversion, and leads?
So I have a lot of people that are out of state right now that want to relocate. So it's a matter of they jump online, they like our Phoenix City Homes website, and they have access to Redfin also and Zillow, and they're just kind of saturating their information and they're getting lots of calls with other agents. So standing out to my out of state buyers is like, what can I do other than doing my videos, jumping on Zoom calls, doing a lot of that stuff with them is how, I'm struggling standing out among all the other agents that I'm sure are doing the same thing as me and having them pick me rather than, the other agent that, is showing them a house on a Tuesday when I showed them a house on a Monday. And it's more of convenience for them, whoever they can get, whoever so happens to find them the house wins their offer, which I've had plenty of conversations with about that specifically.
So let's dive into that a little bit, okay? So,
Okay.
all right, so the client is relocation. Do you know
Mhm.
what their time frame is for moving, like when somebody's relocating?
Yeah, some people, like I have one that they're waiting on a job offer in Arizona. I have another one that's waiting for their house to sell, and then I have someone who's like not even on the market.
Okay.
So it's like all three stages.
So we're thinking about, but it's probably like 3 to 6 months, right? For basically
I would
all
say,
of
yeah,
them.
minimum.
Okay,
Yeah.
minimum. Okay. So a couple things that are super important, right? So like if I was moving to a new state, what do you think the primary problem would be for that type of client?
If you were moving to a new state as a client,
Like if you were moving to a new state, what do you think your actual obstacles would be? Because we're gonna
oh,
talk about this right now in terms of a follow-up process and what would help you
yeah.
pick it up, okay?
So location, like if so, I have two of them have never been to Arizona. So try to figure out, where in California they live, what do they like about it. One of them lives in San Diego, so she's very into like the walkability of places, and she's younger, and so I'm pushing like Arcadia for her because I think Arcadia having a condo would be very ideal for her. I don't know any other than like the historic districts. She's just like kind of honing in on what they want to do. If they're family oriented, then East Valley would be great. If they're into newer builds, if they're, have big money or whatever. There was like McCormick Ranch, they're older, like one of them's like older grandparent. So we're looking at like cactus area, rain tree, McCormick. So I'm focusing on what they're comfortable with, trying to give them exact locations that they might like, and then I'm sending them like great restaurants in that area, what's there to
What's new?
do. Mhm.
So
And
here's what
yeah.
I would probably do, truthfully. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that what you have to do is take everything that you're currently doing from start to finish, right? And
Mhm.
then figure out ways to amplify it, right? So like
Yeah.
one, like what does your relocation guide look like? Do you have a really stellar relocation guide with a
Wow.
survey and a fill-in? And then once they get it, what happens?
Okay.
So like for instance, like I'm just going to give you an example. I would probably have stats in your relocation guide on how many clients you've successfully helped relocate. I think all of your
Okay.
marketing should have like testimonials from people that have relocated. I think you should have a moving guide with a moving checklist. I think you should go figure out different places that you work and specialize in and tell them
Mhm.
what's going on where, maybe do a YouTube video series on like fun places to go,
Oh
right,
God.
in
Okay.
Phoenix or different areas and walk around channels. I mean, you guys are
Okay.
doing this already on your social media. You just have to put it on YouTube. It's really not
Yeah.
hard. But if
Okay.
you start thinking about that, and like, let's say like you get the client and then you send them a bunch of goodies from Arizona to their house in Washington and say, we're so excited that you're
Oh,
moving
that's
here.
cute.
Here's some really great local marketplace people, right? And these are the
Okay.
types of drips and systems that they have, right? And as you're recording these things, they can easily be used for other clients. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
these are a couple of the different areas I've driven by them. Here, check out Scottsdale this week. Hey, this is Arcadia this week. This is Kierland this week. This is X this
Yeah.
week. You know what I mean? And as you get other clients, these again can be the drip campaigns, right?
Yeah.
And there's
Okay.
moving costs, there's movers, there's a network of people that they're going to need to know. Like you could have Sarah's list of preferred vendors, like dentists,
Okay.
doctors, divorce attorneys, or, all the people that you need, right? These are the kinds of things. And if you include all of this and constantly follow up and constantly provide value about a relocation,
Yeah.
I promise you, most of the real estate agents are going, okay, sign up on my website. You can tour properties. When you get here, I'll take you around,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't see a lot of them that are proactively touring properties and neighborhoods and areas, recording information, answering questions on a regular basis for people, and showing them that you are the real relocation expert.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, having something that you can guarantee is also really huge, right? So like
Yeah.
we have that on-time close guarantee. So if we miss your closing, we'll pay you $500 off your
Yeah.
costs, right? So
Mhm.
like if, for instance, like for you, is there a relocation guarantee?
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know, or
I mean, in place, right? Like, are you asking me or like you like
well, I'm
hypothetical?
asking you if you have one, and if you don't,
Oh.
let's write it down as a thing,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
let's look at the relocation guide that you currently have and figure out ways to improve it. And then you'll need at least a follow-up and drip campaign that lasts 6 months,
6 months. Yeah. Okay.
right? And so, and things that are reusable for other people. So every time you tour a property or a neighborhood, or do like, here are the great restaurants, like Restaurant Guide or all these things, like, here's what you can do. And then I would follow it up with gifts. And I would also, when people like travel here, I would also have a specialized program for them too. Like, you
Okay.
know, like when you come for a wedding and they have a whole basket of like what to do and here's the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that should be part of it too. Like,
Okay.
if you're really looking at ways to differentiate yourself, it's with facts, like how many people you've helped, what your
Mhm.
guarantee is, and what the experience is like.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm writing this down
No,
as
I
you're
want
talking.
you to write it down. Like, this is the stuff
Okay.
I want you to get at. But did you see that this entails long-term prospecting, follow-up, drip campaign, and marketing? It's like the
Absolutely. Yeah. And
whole
I mean,
thing.
I think I'm doing like one out of those 3 steps. So that's why
Well,
very helpful.
I know you're calling them, right?
Mhm.
But like, when somebody is not moving for like 6 months, like calling them every week is annoying.
Yeah.
Do you
You're
know
like,
what I
what's
mean?
new? They're like, nothing.
Yeah, but like, also, like, you know, since you said that one client is waiting for a job offer here, like setting them up with your recruiter also a super important thing.
Okay.
Do you have a recruiter that you work with?
I think Brittany does.
I'll send you ours.
Okay. It might be the same person. So I'll have to like look at our vendor
Like,
list.
if you 2 people working on it, the better. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
just saying, hey,
absolutely.
like, and that should be part of your, again, your relocation guide. Are you currently working
Okay.
with a recruiter? Would you like me to introduce you to somebody? You know,
Yeah. Okay.
who do you plan on using for
Yeah.
moving? You know, that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah, that works.
I'd love to, and we can also get together later to like really go over that.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Lindsay, I'm gonna pick on you next, girl.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. You look so sunny and bright.
Oh, I'm against a window. I was like, I don't want to be against a wall. I'd rather be looking at a window.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are your biggest challenges right now with prospecting and conversion?
Well, so I'm like, what, 3 weeks in or so? So I'm very new.
Awesome.
And so like I just met with my leads yesterday, and we're just I'm kind of learning the system that we use. And so it's kind of, it's a lot. It's a lot of like figuring out the pipelines and all that kind of stuff. So, and getting on the phone with people and being comfortable, and asking the right questions. I think right now I find myself a lot asking questions and just receiving a yes or no, instead of a little bit, I need to do like more loaded questions to the people.
So this is going to be a skill training thing, right? So for you, best things to focus on right now are figuring out a prospecting schedule and a timeline, right? So how many phone calls can you make a day? So for you, I would probably say reaching out to 5 different people in your sphere to let them know you've now gotten into real estate.
Yeah.
Super important thing. And then I would spend at least 2 hours a day improving your skills. So there is a book I want you to get, and we'll send it to you. It's called 7 Levels of Communication.
Okay.
And then 2, I want you to go listen to a bunch of Grant Cardone YouTube videos that talk about selling and prospecting.
Okay. Grant Cardone. Okay.
Yep. And here's the thing about selling is you have to be extremely good at asking the right questions, and it does take practice. Like, I have been in sales for like almost 20 years now, and I still rehearse and practice and role play my own sales.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, just consider it, like if you're on the volleyball team, you got to practice volleyball. You're on a sales team now, you got to practice sales. So
Yeah.
scripts, super important. Setting up your database, super important. Getting on a schedule. And like for you, it'll take about 90 days for you to really get in a good rhythm, and then be able to have enough data to go, okay, well, what was my performance like? What did I do the best on? And you can still take all of this information and be able to move it forward, but it'll be about 90 days. So right now, 7 levels of communication, 2 hours a day, like practicing and like refining your skills.
Yeah.
That 7 levels of communication book is 100 pages. It'll be a weekend read.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
You got it, girl. Thank you. All right, Tamara, you're up, girl.
Hello. Okay, so I guess my main focus is leads as the follow-up on once I call the agents or once I call like my leads. I am a loan officer, so I guess that's my follow-up is going back and forth. I probably just call them once a day, and I feel like I need to do more, where your text message. I do text message as well, but I guess doing the follow-up of emailing, contacting them, I probably do once a week. So I kind of do have to go a little bit over and beyond and keep that communication still at a hot lead.
Yeah, I think so I have found that the biggest way that we provide value for real estate agents is to make sure that we treasure and value their leads and are really aggressive with following up on them, right? Like nobody wants to work with a loan officer who's going to call their leads once a week. I promise you.
Right.
Like you need to get way more aggressive with that. And part of the reason that we double dial them back to back, and this is for realtors too, is because people are they get curious, right? When they see the number twice, they're more likely to pick up, and normally what I just say is, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I tried to leave you a voicemail and it wouldn't let me. I did not mean to stalker dial you, but thank you for picking up the phone. I was referred by Brittany. And then we just go through the sequence, but it's really good that you're aggressive, at least on that first time. And then again, that you have a long-term follow process, because most loan officers don't. Like I said, they'll call a lead twice and they'll forget about it. If you're calling a lead once a week, chances are if something like a big file issue happens or a big thing like gets in the way, you're not going to follow up with the lead. And then it'll be next week? And then you're following up every 2 weeks. So you got to be really, really aggressive in that first week so that you know that you've had the maximum potential for converting the lead for your referral partner.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Yes, let's nail down those follow-up processes. Okay, well guys, we are just about time. So I know I wanted to answer more questions, but I appreciate you guys so much for coming to the class. Did you get all the emails for everyone? Okay, so we got all of the emails. We'll be emailing you the package of information and all of the additional items. But if you need anything in addition, I'm always available. If you found a nugget from this class at all, I hope that you will consider us for your next deal. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming. And also guys, we have Chris Medina from Navi Title on here. He is my preferred title partner. He is by far the best with customer service. He works with the best top rated escrow agents, Tanya and Linda Banovac. I mean, we do not have a better title partner in the entire world. So Chris, do you want to say hi to everyone really quick?
Hello. Good to see everybody. Thank you so much for the kind words. The biggest thing in addition to that, and I met with Lizy here recently that we talked about with those announcements and kind of, I know you said to be reaching out to her database, but a lot of that too, I try to, and Lizy, you're the best at this, but incorporating video and a lot of that to try and get in front of people more than anything. And really kind of knowing those stats. Lizy, you started at the beginning talking about, if you added up 60% of your deals going to database, repeat and referral, things like that. And the NAR study you referenced, and there was another NAR study that referenced that only 11.4% of people that bought or sold with somebody in the last 5 years knew who their agent was. So really staying in front of those people and using the systems that Lizy posted today is a huge benefit to you for obviously getting more than half of your business to keep coming back. Per the stats that Lizy was talking about. So just a lot of great content as always. I took a lot of screenshots to help myself and save some of that stuff so I can build out my own kind of platforms there, but always appreciate your content. Lizy, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you have enough stuff to like go back and kick the rest of the asses or the year's asses. Hopefully you guys have a great week. Appreciate you. Thank you.